Good evening, everyone. Let's start
Hi.
with the word of prayer. Dear God, we thank you that we can meet again on this Tuesday evening. Thank you for being with us when we study together again. Lead our thoughts and our conversations and bless us in this hour. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. What are the most important points you remember?
The abortion is not a problem for women, but it's a problem. The problem is with men. The focus should be on men.
Thank you. What are some of the arguments for that?
One of them is about fertility, that women are only fertile for a small window compared to men who are fertile all the time.
Mm-hmm. You can see the numbers on the board, on the notes.
I noted that men, they can control the movement of sperm, but women are not able to control the movement of eggs. So that's another reason for
Men.
as to why the responsibility should lay with the man and not the woman for a pregnancy.
Yeah, that was the main one, I think.
Also want pregnancy. Why not both?
Because it's not a problem and wanted.
Yeah.
So
True.
I also noted down that ovulation is not connected to sex, but ejaculation is. I think that's quite a strong statement. Like ovulation doesn't have to be connected to pregnancy, but ejaculation somehow it is. I mean, it's just the default setting, if you can say that somehow, of a man or of ejaculation. And then connected with that, Janice, you said that unwanted pregnancies do not happen when two people have sex, but when the man ejaculates irresponsibly. I think
That's also a good one.
yeah, like when you think about that,
Yeah.
it's something that you need to think about, like that unwanted pregnancies do not happen when two people have sex, because that is the default thinking in society. Like, oh, they had unprotected sex. But
yeah, women are being responsible.
Yeah, it's not 50-50 somehow.
Or the women's problem.
But I think, yeah, when I think about it, it's in some ways it is 50-50, but in others it's not. So I don't know if you can follow my or challenge me on that.
Yeah. And maybe then people look at the woman because the woman in our society is expected to take care of contraception, right? She's the one held mostly responsible for it. So when it goes wrong, she's also the one who is blamed for it, maybe.
But this goes back to the fact that the woman is the one that becomes responsible for the child somehow. But it doesn't have to be that way, because the men, they just go walk free because society is set up in that way. Society allows for the man to go free without any responsibility. So it's like a societal issue, maybe. Not maybe, it is.
How can it be my responsibility whether or not I get pregnant if you just not to care?
No, not if you get pregnant, but when you are pregnant, I can walk away easily. You cannot walk away as easily. Do you get me? And that fact, or that problem is a problem caused by society, because society makes it easy for men. There is very minor things that can happen.
Answers. Mhm.
Like, I'm thinking in Denmark, the father can be ordered to pay child support or something like that, right?
You have to pay child support.
Yeah, but that's that's mandatory from the state. Like the state mandates you, if you get a child, you have to, and you don't live with the
But you
mother.
have to acknowledge then the child, don't you?
Yeah, but I think
Don't do that.
if you don't, yeah, you probably, yeah, right. That
Because if you don't pay them, maybe not if you don't acknowledge, but let's say you don't have the money to pay, then
Yeah.
the state will pay for you. But then you will be in debt to the state
yeah,
instead.
the state will get after you, or the government, not the state. The government will get after you, not the government, maybe.
But I only think that is when you have acknowledged the child.
Yeah,
If you
right.
just got a woman pregnant and you don't acknowledge the child, then
yeah, or you just disappear, then
I think
But
this,
you can acknowledge the child and pay your money, but you can still not take responsibility.
yeah. No, but it's
It-
not like you can force someone to that. I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. If you as a woman became pregnant and the man says, I don't want to have that child, I'm not gonna acknowledge, then as a woman, I don't think that you can force the man to pay for that child if you decide to keep the child.
Mm.
I think, but
Yes, in Switzerland you do.
yeah,
Yeah.
But even if you have to pay, let's say, as if a man has to pay a certain amount, that's still insignificant compared to what the mother has to pay, quote unquote, not in terms of monetary value only, but in caring, in all other domains. Like, if you can just get off by paying almost like a ticket, then that's inconsequential almost, I would say.
Yeah.
It's like when the rich, they get a speeding ticket, they don't care, like they just pay it.
That's all, then it's still
oh, you can.
not really consequential.
Yeah.
Oh no, I do think that you can.
Yeah, because the state is not
Yeah.
interested in paying for the child or paying for support for the woman.
Yeah, you have to pay.
Because they have an interest that the father is identified so that he can pay his share.
Yeah, you do have to pay. I've now searched for it. You
Yeah.
do, even if you don't acknowledge the child.
Otherwise, the state would have to pay for that mother, for that child. And
You do have to.
that's not what they want. Okay. And we also spoke about sperm live up to 5 days. That makes the fertile window bigger. And that the biggest problem is you don't know when the fertile window is, when the egg is fertile. So it's not as easy as just saying, okay, I will just make sure to be protected 1 week before my ovulation, because you have no idea when that is. And we also saw from studies that there's a lot of variety within a cycle, not only among women, but also with one person. It's not always the same. So the fertility is unpredictable. And yeah, it's kind of, it's difficult to track. It's much more difficult to track than men's fertility, because that's just 24/7. But we decided to focus on the person where it's unpredictable and try to make that person infertile, let's say it like this, instead of the person that is fertile 24/7 and can cause damage every second. So ovulation is involuntary, ejaculation is voluntary. We talked about that. And then we ended with birth control being hard to access and hard to use for women. We saw that there's a much bigger risk for blood clots with oral contraceptives than with any of the COVID-19 vaccines, for example. We looked at statistics there. We saw that the logistics, the access, side effects, and health risks are major hurdles that you have with contraception, and that there's even to the pill, for example, there's a complicated regimen that is not even necessary, that you take it for 21 days and then you take a break for 7 days. It makes it very hard to get used to, like practice it very strictly so that you don't forget any pills and end up being pregnant anyway. And that regimen is actually not beneficial for the health of women or something like that. It can also be skipped. You can just skip the withdrawal period. Do you remember?
Doctors don't tell women.
Yeah, it was just recently only the recommendation of the health department. They changed that to say you can also take the pill throughout without the break if you think it's convenient for you. But up to only a few years ago, it was strictly like 21 days, 7 days. That was the recommendation. And that's not based on any health benefits for women.
That's only because the doctors think this it's what needs to happen.
Yeah. It was, we looked at, oh yeah, you weren't there, right?
No.
And we looked at why is that, and actually that was a rabbit hole I went down in my research, and I really liked it because I didn't know. I also wondered what's this 21/7 days? Is it necessary? Because I remember when I took the pill, sometimes I would just continue taking it because I would go on holiday and it would not be convenient to have my period then. And then I would just have the break later or something. And I was like, yeah, why do I need it anyways then? If I can just do that without any worries. And so the story goes, that was in one article the author refers to. She refers to an article where it's being said that this break, the 7-day break, has actually more to do with the Pope than with your health. Suggesting that it was back then when the pill was designed in the 1960s, I think, they wanted to make the pill acceptable for the Pope because the Pope is against contraception and it alters the natural cycle. So they wanted to imitate the natural cycle by having 21 days and then a week period. But that's not entirely the only reason. It was also because many what do they call it? Many pharmaceutical companies, they also wanted to preserve that natural cycle. They wouldn't market a product that altered the woman's natural cycle. That has a lot to do with the mindset back then. and also doctors who might have been uncomfortable prescribing the pill simply for contraception. They used this as an excuse, like, oh, it's also there to treat irregular periods, so you can have 21 days, 7 days, you can make the whole process very regular, and that's one of the benefits. It's not only for contraception, like, because that had this immoral connotation, maybe, that women are just promiscuous and having sex all day, all night. So they wanted to take that component away or make it less. That's where this break comes from. Yeah,
So it took to 2025 to take that break away.
60 years later, yeah, like in the 2020s or 2019, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Now the NHS guidelines regarding continuous hormonal pill prescriptions are an important step in establishing best practices in women's sexual and reproductive health. And it's unlike the recommendations in the past, now they put women's needs first. That's what we discussed about the pill. So that was women's birth control is hard to access and hard to use. Hard to access because we read this whole list of what you need to do to get the pill. I realize it's not the same in every country. In some countries like the Netherlands, it might be easier, but if you want to get it in the US, you have really you need an appointment, then you need a doctor you need to find a healthcare provider that's...
This is about?
This is about the birth control, how to access it, to get it. A healthcare provider who is even taking new patients, then you need an appointment, you need to take off work or organize childcare to go there. There is much more to getting access to the pill than just going to a pharmacy and grab a packet of pills. And then there's also political parties who want to make the access to birth control much more difficult. Once you have access to the birth control, you're very likely to suffer side effects, at least some of them. And there are real health risks to birth control. We discussed the blood clots, for example. It's like for a Johnson & Johnson vaccine, it was 1 in a million. When they realized that, they paused the vaccination campaign for 10 days because they realized, oh, there's a risk. But for the pill, the risk is much, much, much higher than 1 in a million that you get a blood clot. And that's just accepted. And women take it for years, often from a very young age. Okay, now we get to number 6, and that's the opposite of what we just discussed. Oh. It's birth control for men is easy to access and easy to use. What are the birth control options for men?
Condoms and vasectomies.
Condoms and vasectomies. How are condoms more easier to access?
You can buy them everywhere.
Yeah, you can buy them everywhere.
If
Gas
you do
station.
some research, you maybe can get them for free.
Yeah,
Doesn't require a doctor's appointment.
no appointment,
It's cheap.
no prescription.
There's no shame on it.
Cheap. No shame.
Well, I like this one. Condoms make cleanup super easy.
Where do you read it? Oh, you have the book.
I'm
Yeah.
cheating.
Olaf. With the next sentence it says, women don't have to waddle to the bath or something.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yes. No mess.
Bonus.
Bonus.
What else? Are they safe?
Yeah,
89%.
not only for pregnancy,
98.
but also for
98%.
Oh yeah.
diseases,
Sexual
So,
transmitted infection.
STDs.
It's
Yes.
STE.
100% safe against STDs. Yeah. And no side effects.
What?
No side effects.
Hmm.
What else? You only use them when you need them.
Yeah.
Unlike the pill. Yeah. So
Mhm.
that points. And
Maybe they are even environmental friendly. Because they are just made of rubber.
Better for, yeah, probably it is.
Because all the medicine, you need to flush it to the toilet, you pee it out. And all the plastics and all the other stuff.
okay, I'll write down environment. I don't know.
Reduces global warming.
Okay, vasectomies.
Also very safe.
Yes. 99.99% safe when it comes to pregnancy.
Very easy to get.
Yes.
Outpatient procedure.
Yes. Quickly done quickly. It's outpatient. That means you go there and you go home. You don't have to stay in the hospital.
Yeah. You could be home in the same hour, I think. You don't live too far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but in comparison to to getting a prescription for the pill, you also have to make an appointment. You also have to have examination. You also have to, I mean, so that's, it costs you just as much effort as the pill, getting a pill, I think,
No,
being
less.
fair.
but
No.
the pill, yeah, okay, but the pill is not 99.99% safe.
No,
pill-
there are advantages, but for like doing the effort, you have to get an appointment, you have to search for someone that does it, you have to be examined first, you have to come back again, you have to lay there for some time on a table, you have to, that is not really less effort than the pill.
Yeah, but then the pill, you take it every day.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're with the vasectomy, you're just done. Yeah,
But you also, I mean, when we say to the pill, yeah, it's difficult to access, you need an appointment and you need to, then I do think that we should be fair and say this is also maybe difficult to access.
But if you compare it to IUD, for example,
What?
if you compare it to the IUD,
That's probably a bit more difficult because you also have to go to the apotheke and get your IUD and then bring it to the GP and then so yeah.
Yeah, add. Oh,
And that's not necessary when you get a vasectomy.
you get a local anesthesia, and yes, you will be sore, but
you can go to your work the same day
yeah,
if you have an easy office job.
but you can work, but you can also work if you have an IUD, and I'm just
Yeah, no,
adding
if
this.
you compare it to the equivalent for women, I don't know what it's called, the tube.
Yeah, no, if you, and we will do that comparison later, but if you compare it to a tubal ligation, it's not comparable because this is just the outpatient procedure, and tubals are major surgeries.
True.
So,
Depends on what you compare it with.
yeah. Okay, and we could also add, so you can go to work after 2 to 3 days, although I would say that's probably the worst case.
If you need to ride a bike to work.
And then you also have the reversible. And that was a bit the point of discussion the last time. But I'm just taking the numbers from the book. I think 75% is common, but then you also have some places where you can have a 95% to even 99.5% reversibility rate. Yeah, and it would be, of course, it would be very beneficial to, if that would become something that is normal, that vasectomies are reversible, more reversible in the future. From the book, it says further improving vasectomy and reversal techniques would mean men could get a vasectomy when they are ready to be sexually active, and then reliably reverse it if they and their partner want to conceive. Working toward making vasectomies and reversals a more common, reliable birth control option for every man is a worthwhile goal.
Wat dit ding hier onderdoor? Dat ben niet echt lastig, hoor. Er zit hier een schermpje in beeld. Is dat?
No, that's this. That's, I think, from Zoom.
Het is groter.
Okay.
Maar goed, never mind. Kom maar.
I'll share this quote in the chat. So, and then there's also a third option that some people laughed about.
Inject.
The pull-out method. And yeah, of course, it would be totally irresponsible to advertise that as a reliable birth control method. But
When it works, it works.
it's still better than nothing at all. And I think many men conveniently decide that's not an option, or they don't even think about it. But if done perfectly, this method can actually be 96% effective. Don't ask me what perfectly means. But if you assume it's done imperfectly, you still have a success rate of 78%, which is still better than nothing. And actually, we could require from men to be perfect with their birth control method, for them to perfect their methods, just as we require it from women to not forget their pills and whatever they need to do to keep their birth control up to date, whatever. It's something we expect from women, so we can also expect it from men. So the pull-out method can be 96% effective if done perfectly.
So, but if you then think about it, this pull-out method, I read here on the Cleveland Clinic, it's like 80% effective. That means that 1 out of 5 women do get pregnant with this. I wouldn't like to have that chance, 1 out of 5.
Of course not. Of course not. And that's what I said. I would never advertise it as a birth control method. But if you, as a man, this is still better than doing nothing at all. Right?
I wonder what is this percentages compared to, because when you are age 20 to 24, you have a 86% chance that you get pregnant in the first year of trying to get pregnant. So only 86% gets pregnant if they really want to get pregnant in the first year. And when you are over 25, it's 78%. When you're over 30, it's like 63% only get pregnant in the first year. And over 35, only 52% get pregnant within the first year. So what are they comparing it with? Because if 1 out of 5 women would not get pregnant, even if they want to get pregnant.
Yeah, but they just take 100 women and then they count how many of them.
Get pregnant when they have
don't think-
when they
yes.
try to get pregnant.
To compare it. With the birth control methods, it's just
Yeah.
this Pearl index just indicates how many women of 100 women become pregnant, get pregnant. And I'm not sure if it's necessary to know if they want to get pregnant or not.
Yeah, I was just wondering that.
What number are you talking about then?
Yeah, well, if you use the pull-out method, it's like 22% or something, huh? 22% because probably it's done imperfectly. So imperfectly, 22% gets pregnant. 1 out of 5 people, 1 out of 5 women get pregnant. But so, and if you would not, if you would not do anything, if you would just have sex, how many women would get pregnant?
Yeah, then you would have to make a study.
I think
Not
That's-
100%.
but that's all that with how do you
It's
say
with
that?
all, with also with the pill and also with the IUD and also with the, but I wonder how they count it.
With scientific studies, you always correct. How do you say that? You always
Yeah, I know.
Adjust your numbers to those kind of numbers. So it's when a study says
It's
1 out
80%.
yeah, 1 out of 5 gets pregnant with the pull-out method, you can assume that is
All get pregnant.
that's all that's based on how do you say that? Well, that it's I don't know if it's the right word, but that it's corrected or that it is adjusted to the other factors. So there's several factors that play a role: the age of the person, whatever. And I think that is all corrected to those factors. That's what you do when you do scientific studies.
Yeah, probably. But I still wonder how they do that. It's not important. It's just me. Let's go on.
So we said we can expect from men to perfect their birth control methods, whether that's trying to become good at the pull-out method and finding out how it works, even if it's just for an emergency method. Of course, that's not very responsible, but we can also expect them, for example, to become good at how to use condoms and find out what specific type of condoms they like, what size, what lubrication, you have different types of many different types of condoms, and there's this general awareness in the society, or this myth that condoms are unpopular. They don't have a good reputation, that it's uncomfortable, that's inconvenient, that it's less pleasurable, whatever. But we'll get to that later as well. The camera, not. Did you?
Ik ben gewoon de beeld.
No, but wasn't it blurry? Or did only I see that? the
That's not important. You see your
image was-
screen.
Okay. Okay.
10 minutes.
And that brings us to the next point, number 7. Society clings to the idea that men hate condoms. It's almost a cultural given that men hate condoms. You see that, you read that in books, you see it in movies. There are memes who tell you because it feels less good or it makes you less manly because, and sometimes it's even pictured as a kind of a conquest to talk a woman into unprotected sex without a condom. So because of the established standard, men who do actually like condoms are less likely to share their preference and their positive experiences. Sorry. Reacts to. Number 8, vasectomies are less risky than tubal ligations. Tubal ligation would be the female version of the vasectomy where you cut the ovaries. I'm not sure if this is medically correct. Cut the ovaries.
Remove them.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so
Tubes are tied off, cut, clamp, bend, sew.
terrible because they are both. So the vasectomy is the sterilization for the man, and the tubal ligation is the sterilization for the woman. Both are permanent, but one is much easier, less risky, and cheaper, and that's the vasectomy. And for this, I'm just going to let the doctor speak. I will share some quotes with you in the chat. Doctors and healthcare providers agree that tubals are more invasive, riskier, and more complicated than vasectomies. When you look at the pros and cons, the scales tip in favor for vasectomies. Despite the facts, tubal ligation is still the more popular method. Maybe it's because birth control and sterilization are considered the woman's responsibility. But as many women will argue, and several guys have agreed with, women's bodies have gone through plenty of trauma with childbirth. So when it comes to the sterilization, it's time for the guys to take one for the team. And that's from the Sperm Check Vasectomy Research Center. Dr. Alexander Pastusak from the University of Utah Medical Center says, with tubal ligation, you need to make an actual hole in the abdomen, which by surgical standard is a minor surgery. But it's still much more major than a vasectomy. I don't see any reason why tubal ligation would be or should be preferred over a vasectomy. A doctor says, I do anesthesia for a living, done it for hundreds of tubals, I'm sure. I often think, is wrong with the husband? What is wrong with the husband? Except when part of a C-section, tubals should be rare. Vasectomies are cheap, low pain, extremely safe, and highly effective. Why are tubals also a burden that women must carry? An additional point, there has never been a documented death from a vasectomy. However, many women have died from anesthetic or surgical complications from a tubal ligation.
So here it sounds like that the tubal is ligation is more popular than vasectomy.
That's often women that request the tubal ligation.
But more than women request vasectomy. It sounded like
Then men request vasectomies.
Mhm.
Yeah, it sounded like that. We should probably get some numbers with that, see whether that's true. But that's just someone who speaks from their experience.
Yeah.
A doctor who says, I have more women who come to me with the request for a tubal, but I want to see more men that request vasectomies. Why? What's wrong? Because
yeah.
this is so much more invasive.
Hmm.
It should be the other way around.
It says here, tubal ligation is the most common form of sterilization, as nearly 700,000 performed each year in the US.
700,000
Yeah.
a year.
In the
700.
US, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And often done with the C-section or done apart?
Yeah, I don't know that. They do
Yeah.
it a lot during C-sections, of course.
Mm.
Mhm. Additionally, tubals are often denied to women under 35 or without kids. And vasectomies are easier and more successful when you want to reverse them. Reversing vasectomy is minimally invasive. If you want to reverse a tubal, that's a major surgery. And you have, when you had, as a woman who had a tubal, you have a higher risk of an ectopic pregnancy. Think that is when the pregnancy takes place in one of the ovaries, right? Then that's very dangerous, and it has to be removed immediately.
But then you mean after reversal?
Yeah, no, after a reversal, why would that be?
If you had a tubal ligation,
Yeah, okay.
you usually don't get pregnant.
If you reverse it and then you get pregnant again, then you have a risk that the egg
Yeah.
gets stuck in your ovary.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and then you have also horrifying side effects, like your intestine can actually get perforated, the bowels can become damaged, and you could be left with prolonged abdominal pain or pelvic pain. That's heavier side effects than a vasectomy. And some women experience menopause-like symptoms when they have a tubal ligation, like hot flashes, night sweat, sleeping problems, irregular periods, and a low sex drive. And then there's, last but not least, there's also the cost. A tubal, I have it in dollars here because it's from the book. It's like $1,500 to $6,000, and a vasectomy costs you only 300 to 1,000 average.
$1,000 for a vasectomy? Do you get a massage during the procedure, or what's wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
also longer. How do you say that?
And what?
Longer recovery, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. We discussed 2 more arguments. Or 3.
Yeah.
But let's leave it here. It's 9 o'clock. Any open questions? Evanis, you're muted.
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay, let's close. God, thank you for our hour of worship and also the social talk we could have and exchange experiences with each other. Thank you for the discussion of tonight, and if it's your will, that it may be continued later. And we also want to ask a blessing on the rest of the week as we prepare for the Sabbath as well, and for the meetings that are on our schedule with international speakers, but also within the movement when we participate in meetings, camp meetings. Thank you for that, and we ask you to be with the speakers who travel and bless them as they spread your word. Thank you that you will give everyone a good night's rest as well. In Jesus' name, Amen.